Welcome, everybody, to the Sentinel Report. I am your host, Alex Newman. It is November 3rd, 2025. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful day that the Lord has made. We've got some very special guests coming up, including the great Stephen Gardner. We've got two parents whose child was stolen from them by the government. It's got a happy ending, but boy, did they find some terrible, terrible things. We have Monty Bennett joining us to talk about how we can revitalize our cities and much, much more. So stay tuned for all that. We'll start with a word from the Word today. This comes out of Matthew chapter 7, verses 24 and 25. The Bible reads, "Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall because it had been founded on the rock." And the rock, of course, ladies and gentlemen, is our Lord, our Savior, our King, Jesus Christ, Jesus of Nazareth. So praise the Lord for that, folks. Make sure you keep that in mind at all times. Don't build your house on a foundation of sand, because it will be blown away, as we saw over and over again all throughout human history. Now, folks, before we get into the news today, I do want to encourage you, if you're looking at crypto, I want you to connect with our friends over at Block Trust IRA. Bitcoin Magazine, they actually gave them the #1 ranking for a crypto technology platform. They use a proprietary AI trading system that really offers some incredible benefits. I used it for 6 months before we agreed to partner with them, because I wanted to make sure it was good. So I want you to check it out when you have an opportunity. You can find them at cryptowithnewman.com. That's cryptowithnewman.com, and you can connect with them there. They can send you information, and you can learn all about the great stuff that they're doing through Block Trust IRA. Again, Bitcoin Magazine's #1 crypto technology platform. You can talk to them about tax-advantaged asset ownership. You can look at their proven performance and their unparalleled security. So if you're looking at crypto, definitely check out our friends. You can find it all at cryptowithnewman.com. Now, folks, a lot going on in the news, but huge on the Nigeria front. We've been sounding the alarm on this program for years about what jihadists have been doing to our brothers and sisters in Nigeria. Well, on Friday, October 31st, Donald Trump announced that Nigeria was going to be designated a country of particular concern under the International Religious Freedom Act, and that is because the government has done basically nothing as jihadists massacre Christians. He posted an incredible statement on Truth Social saying Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. When Christians or any such group is slaughtered like is happening in Nigeria, something must be done. And so praise the Lord. Pray for Donald Trump and pray for our brothers and sisters in Nigeria as they navigate this horror. Now, folks, we just had an opportunity to sit down and talk with Congressman Randy Fine, and he had some interesting thoughts about the Islamist problem we have here in this country. One of the things he said is that we ought to be deporting Zoran Mamdani for lying on his immigration documents, for his Islamism, and for his ties to radical Marxist groups like the Democratic Socialists of America. Check it out.
The fact of the matter is Mamdani lied to become a citizen of this country. He did not disclose his affiliation with the Democratic Socialists. He did not disclose his love for Muslim terrorists. If he had, he would never have become a citizen just 8 years ago, which is a much bigger problem. Why can someone who just became a citizen become mayor of New York? But he is not an American. He is not someone who cares about America. He is someone who has come here to destroy America. And we just learned today that his own mother says that he is not an American. So I think it is a disgrace that he could possibly become the mayor of the greatest city in the world, the biggest city in America. And I think it's a real problem. And I think it speaks to the concern we should have as Americans, because the fact of the matter is the only reason he has a chance to win is because foreign-born Americans are voting for him overwhelmingly. Americans, whether you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, if you were born in the United States, you're not voting for this guy. It's people who just came here who are. And it speaks to a real problem that we have with who we have imported into this country over the last several decades.
Yep. Amazing. Now, we also asked him about, he's got a bill in Congress right now to ban Sharia law across the United States. I want you to hear what he had to say about this. You have a bill that I think even a few years ago would have been dismissed as just grandstanding, kind of a sideshow. But now we see this community in Texas, they want to build like a Muslim town. We see police departments in this country now with Arabic writing. We see Patterson, New Jersey, Muslim City Council renames Main Street into Palestine Way. This is happening now. And so you have a bill that would address this. It's called the No Sharia Act. It would prohibit the application of Sharia law in the United States where such application would violate constitutional rights and for other purposes. Let's address first, is this a real issue, Congressman? Is there a real need to address this threat or alleged threat of Sharia law in this country?
Sure. If you listen to the mainstream Muslim imams in their own words on their public broadcasts, they are very clear in what their goal is. It is to conquer the United States and make it part of the Islamic Caliphate. And you can see it. We saw it in Dearborn, where now that it's 55% Muslim, the Muslim mayor told a longtime Christian resident he was no longer welcome there. It's Minneapolis, where they play the call to prayer at 3:30 in the morning. It is a goal to dominate and change the fundamental tenet of the United States. Well, we don't want the Islamic Caliphate to come to the United States. There's 50 countries you can go live in if that's what you want, not here. So my bill would put a hard stop to all of this and say we are a Judeo-Christian nation formed on certain values. The Quran was not one of them. And if you want to live under Sharia law, go home.
You can find the rest of that over at our website, libertysentinel.org, also at The New American or any of the places where you can find podcasts. Fascinating interview. Now, up to the north in Canada, the Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship, he's a cabinet secretary, as we would call him here, Mark Miller, he actually suggests that people ought to be prosecuted for reading Bible passages he doesn't like. Of course, this will not apply to Muslims reading the Quran, but listen to this.
Just use the chair's prerogative for 2 seconds to ask a follow-up question to Mr. Ross. And it's despicable and as unlawful, I believe the statements made by Mr. Sharkawi were and would be if they were stated again. We don't know why the prosecution chose not to continue with the charges. And perhaps it is to Mr. Fortin's point. I just want to dig in a bit about the concept of good faith, Mr. Ross. In Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Romans, there's other passages, there is clear hatred towards, for example, homosexuals. I don't understand how the concept of good faith could be invoked if someone were literally invoking a passage from, in this case, the Bible, but there are other religious texts that say the same thing, and somehow say that this is good faith. I mean, clearly there are situations in these texts where these statements are hateful. They should not be used.
Yeah, hateful statements in the Bible that cannot and should not be used, and you should be prosecuted if you say them, folks. These people aren't playing around. The Swedish government found something similar in 2008. They said, well, if you change the words, maybe you could get away with it, but the Bible is a violation of our hate speech laws. Folks, that's unacceptable. It goes without saying. Now, the U.S. government has been importing paganism into our country for many, many years now, and it's coming to a head. In North Carolina, Hindus have acquired 130 acres of land, and they're building a giant temple complex with a 155-foot statue of their god of war, Lord Murugan, the Hindu god of war. It's going to be massive, and apparently we're not allowed to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it here on this program. Now, before we go to break, folks, and start bringing on our guests, I want to share with you what has happened in Jamaica. Hurricane Melissa absolutely devastated this island nation. It's the strongest hurricane to have hit Jamaica in its history. The footage is absolutely devastating. So if you know of a good Christian charity that is providing relief service there, folks, please pray about it, because these people desperately need help. Their infrastructure has been destroyed. Their homes have been destroyed. Their businesses have been destroyed, and keep them in prayer for sure. Stay with us. We're going to be right back here on this program with much more on the Sentinel Report.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day, and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
Welcome back to the Sentinel Report. Folks, it does look like Zoran Mamdani is about to become the next mayor of New York City. And unless Congressman Randy Fine from our earlier segment gets his way and Mamdani is deported for lying on his immigration documents, that is going to mean some very profound changes for New York City. Now, all across the country, people are realizing that radical changes are needed. Our cities, our urban centers are decaying. The crime is out of control, the poverty, the homelessness, the drug addiction. Nobody can look at Detroit or Chicago or Memphis or any of the big cities and say, wow, that's really great. That's what America ought to look like. But there are people with other visions that don't involve necessarily communism, I guess, is what you would call what Mamdani is proposing. Joining us today is a very special guest. His name is Monty Bennett. He's the publisher of the Dallas Express as a media platform that he founded because he felt businesses were not being treated independently and fairly by the media. He's also CEO of Ashford Inc. and chairman of two real estate investment trusts that own hotels across the country. And he's got a very unique take on business and also on these political issues about how do we revitalize our city. He's got experience managing a multi-billion-dollar enterprise with hotels literally in every major city across this country. And he's been very active in his hometown of Dallas trying to fix these issues. He was a big supporter of the Dallas Hero campaign for law enforcement funding, for the Refuge for Renewal, homeless shelter, the Metroplex Civic and Business Association, trying to get business leaders involved in public policy, and also the Dallas Education Collective. So he's doing a lot of work to try to fix our cities. Monty, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you on the program. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
So we spoke a little bit during the break, and you said you think Mamdani is going to end up winning this race in New York City. I mean, what does that mean for New York?
Well, I do think he's going to win, and it's not good for New York at all, and it's a terrible shame. A lot of great people and a lot of great things in New York City. Unfortunately, I think because of the human condition, we have to grab this third rail of foolishness and experiment with it. We saw it with New York in the 70s and how bad it was, and then finally the city woke up and elected a series of stronger mayors and mayors that got that city back on its feet. And it looks like we just have to go through the same cycle. I think what a big question is what's he going to do? He's going to get in, he's going to try to placate the business community and talk these things down, or is he going to go full leftist, communist, and go straight for all these ridiculous and nutty programs, in which case it'll throw that whole city into its tailspin. It's going to be hard to know exactly what he's going to do as soon as he has that power. And I don't know the particulars of how much power he actually has as mayor and what he can do with and without the council and on and on. But it's terrible for the city, but maybe long term it might be best for the city, not unlike how when President Trump lost the election in 2020. And I've done a lot of work investigating voter fraud over the years. There's no question that election was stolen from him. And I thought that was just terrible. And while it was in its own rights, it turned out to maybe one of the best things that happened, because then when he did come back in 24, he was well armed, well prepared, and he was able to do a lot more than what he would have been able to do in 2020. So these things have a way of working their way out.
Yeah, let's hope he doesn't get to do all the things he's promising. Free food, free house, free bus. Somebody's got to pay for all that, and my guess is the people paying for that are not going to stick around to find out how that goes down. Monty, you've done a lot of work in Dallas, and I've been in Dallas many times, even just this year. Dallas is looking better. I mean, it doesn't look like some of these Democrat-run cities that you find on both coasts that are, frankly, a disgrace to our country, that are falling apart. You've played a big part in that. What do you think city governments ought to be doing to try to revitalize their downtowns, to try to stop the crime and the drug addiction and the homelessness problems?
You know what I think? I think that there has to be a recognition that it is hard for cities to be everything they can be. The structure of local government and how the incentives lay out, it makes it difficult for them. And you can see that across the country, right? I mean, almost all of our cities are terrible. And I think what needs to happen, which used to be the case many years ago, but is not the case anymore, is our business groups and our business leaders and our churches need to stand up and to get involved. And they need to get involved very vocally, very loudly into our cities and to push the cities to where they need to go. In the end, these cities respond to pressure, and this pressure needs to be applied in ways that is organized, and businesses and churches have the ability to do that. I'll give you an example. in downtown Dallas, we've got a number of 7-Elevens, and they are well known for being homeless encampments. And there's people sleeping up against the walls and people all over the grounds. And here, the head of 7-Eleven, 7-Eleven North America, is in the Metroplex. It's run by a guy named Joe DePinto, I believe his name. And so what I think we as citizens should be doing is calling him up and saying, hey, Joe, hey, 7-Eleven, how about taking care of your stores? How about making your stores being places that people feel comfortable walking into? And then hopefully getting him engaged to clean up the stores and making them places that are attractive in downtown Dallas. Because while overall Dallas has been doing well, downtown is still suffering greatly, and it's a problem. And 7-Eleven is part of it. And there's other businesses in town that need to get a lot more involved. And then what they typically do is they'll send a few dollars to some homeless center and say, well, we solved. But if you look at it, we have got these major companies in Dallas. We have AT&T, we have Southwest Airlines, we have Energy Transfer Partners, Texas Instruments. These firms have billions and billions of dollars in revenues, thousands and thousands of voters locally. And if the heads of these corporations, who are all very, very competent, capable people, I've met a few of them, not many though, if they got on the phone with each other once a month for 5 minutes and said, hey, how can we get together to make our city great? There would be a night and day difference. And I think what's happened in New York and a lot of these cities is many, many years ago, that dynamic in conjunction with the churches just kind of backed off and the crazies took over. And now look what we have. And now the businesses are seeing that they've got a serious problem. Because if you look at the businesses in New York, I know some of these guys are brilliant that run these businesses in New York. They're very wealthy personally. Their companies are very successful. They're very smart. If those people got together and spent any time together trying to map out and help their city, then you wouldn't have this problem. But they obviously don't, because I know their capability. And I know that if they did do it, that you wouldn't be seeing the results that we're seeing. So businesses and churches have to get involved. Churches too have been very afraid of getting involved and afraid of the IRS ruling and afraid of this and afraid of that. And they need to take leadership role and push morality in our cities to take care of each other, but at the same time to be responsible. So I think there could be a great, bright future ahead for our cities in this country if the business community, if the church got themselves together and applied pressure and provided leadership. I think you'd see a tremendous difference.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on. This cannot just be a government solution. In fact, Ronald Reagan famously told us that the 9 most terrifying words in the English language were, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. But if businesses and churches would play a part in doing this, we could see some dramatic transformation. Monty, before we let you go, are you optimistic that we'll move in the right direction? I mean, based on what you're seeing, you've got business interests all over this country. Are you optimistic, generally speaking, about the direction that we're heading in? Can we fix these problems in time?
I am optimistic. And I'm seeing change. I'm seeing change in Dallas. And with programs like yours and the word that you're bringing out to people, being able to connect like this and to hear from each other really gives all of us more courage to be more vocal and to push and to be involved in our communities. And so it makes a tremendous difference. So thank you so much for what you're doing. And I am optimistic because of this fact that we can communicate and we can hear from each other, we can share ideas, and we can go out there and make a difference.
Well, that's fantastic. Really glad to hear it. And I want to thank you for joining us today, Monty. It's been a pleasure, an honor, and a privilege. You are, of course, the publisher of the Dallas Express. Folks, you can check that out online. Also CEO of Ashford Inc. and chairman of 2 Hotel REIT's Real Estate Investment Trust. Thank you again for joining us, sir, and thank you for all that you're doing.
Thanks, Emmanuel.
Absolutely.
Great talking to
you as well. All right, folks, stay with us. We're going to be right back after this quick break here on the Sentinel Report.
Introducing Perform Light. Perform Light helps support your body's performance from within. This plant-powered electrolyte drink helps you be the power plant that you were meant to be. Unlike most electrolyte products in the market, Perform Light is more than just a sodium, potassium, or magnesium-containing electrolyte formula. It is bioenergetic nutrition. Perform Light has a full spectrum of minerals derived from pure, natural seawater, so the balance of electrolytes in Perform Light is the same that exists in the body, making the nutrient load more bioavailable. In addition, Perform Light contains a blend of 31 powerhouse vegetable and fruit concentrates and herbal extracts rich in bioflavonoids and antioxidants to enhance energy and oxygen utilization naturally without stimulants or sugar. And of course, Perform Light is powered by VNI's proteasome technology for rapid and sustained absorption of its nutrient payload. Better absorbed minerals means more electrolytes to promote the essential electrical functions of cells in your body. Unlock the power of your mitochondria. Harness the energy of your cells. This is nutrition that gets in and energy that comes out. Feel the energy. Be the energy with Perform Light.
Welcome back to the Sentinel Report, folks. We've spent quite a few segments talking about the ongoing epidemic of government kidnapping children from decent, honorable, and perfectly fit, loving families. Joining us today, we have a family that was a victim of this, and what they discovered should scare every one of us and should outrage every one of us to the point where we will do something constructive about this, because it might not have affected your family yet, but if we don't act, it will eventually. Our guests today are Lou and Linda Pelletier. They had a horrific experience with the Child Protective Services. They call them DCF, the Department of Children and Families up in Massachusetts. I'll let them do the bulk of the explaining, but in February of 2013, they took their daughter to the hospital, and their doctor there disagreed with their previous doctor's diagnosis, as I understand it, and basically claimed the girl was crazy, and I mean, it's a horror show. I'll let our guests explain. But long story short, the government kidnapped the little girl, Justina. Lou, Linda, welcome to the program. Thank you very much for joining us today. I know you guys discovered an absolute horror show as you dug into this, but let's start with the story of your daughter who was kidnapped by the DCF.
Well, she had been treated for years at Tufts Medical Center, which was across town in Boston, and everything was hunky-dory. She had a number of specialists. She had some stomach issues, some other things that was being, well taken care of. Unfortunately, in February of 2013, she had like flu-like symptoms, wasn't feeling really good. And her main doctor, who was a geneticist, decided she really needs to be seen by her stomach doctor, who had been the head of the GI department at Tufts. Unfortunately, a month earlier, he and most of his team left Tufts to go across town to Boston Children's. So on a snowy February day in 2013, she goes by ambulance to Boston Children's, where she was supposed to go to the stomach floor, meet up with her former GI doctor to kind of basically get her rehydrated, get her back on the straight and narrow again. And unfortunately, she was taken went to the ER, and the ER ended up putting her on a neurology floor because of a doctor that came in there. And basically, which we found out within the next couple of days, they basically were saying that what she had wasn't real. It was in her head, what they call somatoform.
Or conversion
disorder. And then at first, they were just saying, we're going to try a different approach, which we said, fine. But on February 13th, they gave Linda, who was staying there with her, this, what was called guidelines of care for Justina, which said, we're not going to let you speak to your Tufts doctors anymore. We're taking her off all her medications. We are now the chiefs in charge. And I said, whoa. That's not what we signed up for. So the next day, February 14th.
No second opinion.
No second opinions, no anything. So the 14th, next day, she actually had an appointment with the head of genetics at Tufts. So I said, no, enough. I'm going to go just bring her over to Tufts and get back on the path she was on before. But before I can discharge her, they brought in their own, they basically blocked us from getting our daughter. They said she was about to be taken by DCF because we weren't following, their medical protocol. And it began a 16-month nightmare.
They wouldn't even let me say goodbye to her. There was approximately 10 security guards that walked around us, pushed me towards the stairwell, and then brought us downstairs and said we had a no trespass law. And we can never enter the hospital without invitation. And we did nothing. All we
Wow.
wanted to do was help her.
That
No
is
yelling,
so.
nothing.
Oh, it's heartbreaking. It's terrifying. Anybody who has children, I know, feels your pain. Although I can't even begin to imagine how horrific that was. But what you discovered next was actually a national problem. You and I talked a little bit on the phone, and I was aware of this, but I think you guys have some additional details. Turns out the federal government actually pays state and local governments to kidnap more and more children. There's like a financial incentive there. And it seems like you guys got caught up in this. I should say you had your daughter returned to you after a horrific ordeal. So before we get to the federal program that encourages all this, you got Justina back. I know she is not as doing as well as she was when this whole ordeal began, but
Well,
just give us a quick snapshot.
before she went to Boston Children's Hospital, she was a pretty active child. She was a competitive figure skater. I'm a professional figure skater. I know a lot of the top athletes in the United States, and my other daughter is a professional skater. We all love it. And she was skating and jumping and competing. Now she's still in a wheelchair. It's awful, and we're trying everything to get her stronger, but I don't know what they did to her because this is not my daughter.
Remember the commercial with the eggs? This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is your child. No, this is your child after she was taken by, in this case.
And she
Yep.
and she does adaptive programs for herself. But anyway, I just wanted to add that in. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I know some people who heard about this horror story and tried to get involved. The federal government, thanks to a lot of Harvard friends, you might say, got ruthlessly involved and came after them with the full force of the federal government. We've actually had Marty on this program before, so we'll leave that story for another day. But you guys found out that the federal government's actually encouraging this. We've only got a few minutes left in this segment, but talk to us about this program that you discovered that it basically gives financial incentives to state and local governments that kidnap more children from parents.
Sure. Back in 1993, under Health and Human Services, under Bill Clinton, they passed a law that allows that if somebody's a ward of the state, meaning they're under Department of Children and Families, a hospital basically can do any medical or psychological research with no consequences. So it's become big, big business because once that child is taken, number one, who's paying for their care? It's being paid for by that state's Medicaid system. So they can do whatever they want. The parent has no voice, no control of it, and they can pretty much get away with doing what they want. So we found out just at Boston Children's, 5 children a day are reported to what they call Child Protection Services, which is a medical position, believe it or not. And 2 of those 5 get taken. So those are just,
one hospital in one day, folks.
Yes.
And this is happening across the country. This is not limited to Massachusetts. I guarantee it's happening even in Oklahoma, as we reported a couple weeks ago. So Lou and Linda, I believe this is a crisis. I think one of the cruelest things that anybody could ever do to a parent is take away their child. Now, we all know there are times, horrific circumstances where sometimes some sort of action is necessary, but so many of the parents that we've seen affected by this are decent, honorable, loving parents. What do you think we need to do about this as a society to try to reform this system?
I mean, I think there's no guardrails in place. And I think when they took Justina, if they just took a step back to say, wait a minute, no matter how all powerful you think you are, what you're doing is wrong? Because when you accuse somebody or you're saying what they have is not real, it's in their head. And if they're wrong, it could be literally a death sentence. Unfortunately for Justina, it wasn't a death sentence, but it was a crippling sentence because she's now in a wheelchair for the rest of their life because they went all in on saying it was not real. It was in her head.
But they also misdiagnosed her 100%. She has complex medical with strokes, and they never did it. That's why she can't walk, because she was having continual strokes. We don't know how many.
So I think our goal is, number one, there's a new chief in charge of the Homeland Health and Human Services, RFK Jr. I guess we'd love to meet with him. I got to believe he's aware of this rule, that how can it still exist, in 2025, allowing such a big business to operate where there's no guardrails. They can do what they want because they know it's a big business and they get paid for it.
Yeah.
And if we can get one bad thing, one good thing to happen out of what happened to Justina.
Well, Justina would love to have her story told correctly. She's never had her story told. It's always been Boston saying it. And her wishes are, and she keeps telling me, Mom, I just want my story to be told by me correctly. What happened to me for those 16 months they took me? And I think she should have the right to tell somebody, because that's so important. And she wants that Justina law passed, which went to Congress, and then there's a new president, so you have to re-enter it, which I don't mind re-entering it, but we need help to re-enter it. And that would be, so this would never happen to another person like Justina, because there are cases in the United States. I've advocated for families. I've not gotten those phone calls yet, but most of these children are not taken for 16 months. And also, I'm under the impression that the governor released Justina with HHS. The court system never got to that point. Wow. That's what was told to me.
Wow. Yeah, this requires action. I mean, Congress has got to get involved. Robert F. Kennedy needs to get involved. This is unacceptable. It's, this is, we're talking about families and lives completely ruined, completely turned upside down, with no real recourse. So I want to thank you both for your courage in speaking out. Please give Justina our regards. We're really proud of her and her bravery and how tough she's been throughout this whole ordeal. But thank you guys very much for joining us today. Thank you for fighting. And please keep us posted. We will be sure to pass this along to everybody we can. We urge our viewers to do the same. And if you have any final thoughts, please go ahead.
No, Alex, the point is this, it is going on. This has to stop. There's new folks in town that hopefully this will raise enough of alarm to help slow it down. If we can stop the funding, under NIH to these hospitals, if they do this, it hits somewhere, it hurts in the wallet. So if we can do that, that's going to be a big step in making what happened to Justina, something that got out of it.
But even with Justina, I'm just going to add something in. My mother was living here and she was 93 years old. I had 1 hour a week to talk to Justina on the phone and one visit, 1 hour. And my mother was not allowed to talk to her, and she couldn't drive to Boston, and she was not allowed to use the phone to talk to her. They just thought Connecticut was bad. Don't ask me why.
Yeah, that's unacceptable. And this can't happen to
And there's so much more.
families.
But anyway, I know you're...
Thank you guys so much.
It's very hurtful.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. But thank you guys so much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing the story. And please keep fighting the good fight. We will keep you in prayer. And hopefully we'll talk to you again very soon.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you as well. Yeah, folks, this is a real problem. And like I said, it's not just this family in Oklahoma that we talked to a couple of weeks ago. It's not just the Pelletier family. This is a national crisis. It's happening across the country, and it's happening even now with Republicans in charge of both houses of Congress and Donald Trump in the White House. So we've got to sound the alarm about this. If you're a Christian homeschool family, you can definitely get in touch with our friends over at Heritage Defense. That's where my wife and I have been members for years now, for Christian homeschool families, and they will defend your interests if you ever get yourself into a situation like this. So check them out at heritagedefense.org. I'm sure there are other groups like that if you're not a Christian homeschool family. But folks, we need to take prudent precautions for ourselves. I've seen data that 37% of children in America are going to be involved in a CPS investigation before they turn 18. And the vast majority of those are determined not to be victims of abuse or neglect, but the process is punishment that you can't imagine. And sometimes it ends in catastrophe, like what happened to this family and like what has happened to so many other families. So get involved and stay with us. We're going to be right back after this quick break.
In 1776, a nation was born, forged in the crucible of revolution. Brave men and women stood together fighting for freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. Introducing Patriot Mobile, the wireless carrier that stands with you. We are committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile. For free activation, use promo code Newman.
Welcome back to the Sentinel Report. Alex Newman, your host here. Folks, thanks for staying with us over the break. I know that was a tough segment. It's heartbreaking, but we have a very special guest joining us for this segment. He is one of the most, I think, insightful people on what's happening around the country today. He's got an incredible show. It's called The Stephen Gardner Show. I've been very blessed to be on there a few times in recent months, and he really does great work breaking down for his enormous audience. I mean, millions of subscribers. On all the issues of the day that are really important, without the fake media spin that is so prevalent on TV. I'm referring, of course, to Stephen Gardner. Stephen, welcome to the program. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you with us today.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come on.
Oh, it's a great honor. Stephen, we were talking a little bit during the break about the government shutdown, so-called. It's starting to hit home for people, right? The flight delays this weekend because of the shortage of air traffic controllers resulted in all kinds of flight delays. We see the Democrats holding firm. We see Trump now calling for the nuclear option, get rid of the filibuster, because the Democrats are going to do it anyway as soon as they're back in power. What's your assessment of where we are right now on this issue, and where do you think we should be going?
Well, I was just on with Congressman Tim Burchett on my show from Tennessee, and I asked him to confirm a rumor. Ted Cruz and others are saying that the government could reopen as early as this weekend. I said, wait a minute, after holding out, they're just going to suddenly reopen? I guess Ted Cruz has got some insider information that they've purposely been using the SNAP program to leverage against President Trump. Why? Because of the New Jersey governor race that is happening, as well as the New York City mayor race. So they're trying to stack the deck in their favor. They're trying to get their people mobilized to get them out. And then ultimately, they've kind of run out of playing cards or justification to keep the government closed. But right now, the majority of the country, according to polling data, blames the Democrat Party. Their approval rating has gone down. Now, President Trump's approval rating has also gone down. So what they're weaponizing against him through the mainstream media has been working, but I believe he will bounce back. I think most people can see this for what it is. The government is leveraging hungry children in order to get money for illegal immigrants. They just sued to block the GOP from getting the SNAP benefits data. Why? Because they don't want the American people to know that there are over 10 million illegal immigrants getting taxpayer-funded food stamps. That would look really, really bad. So, I mean, otherwise, why do you try to hide stuff? Bring it out into the sunlight, prove that it's not real. I think they are worried that not only are the taxpayers going to be mad that their money is going to illegal immigrants, but when they find out that illegals are getting more money for food than American citizens, they're going to be pissed.
Yeah, this is a really interesting political dynamic here. So Democrats, this is their hill to die on. Healthcare, taxpayer funded for illegals. Food stamps, taxpayer funded for illegals, more than for American citizens. This is shaping up to be really interesting. Stephen, there's some very bizarre things happening in the political realm, like the New York mayor race that you mentioned. It looks like Mamdani is actually going to win. I mean, what's your assessment? You talk to a lot of people, a lot of very smart people about what's happening in our country. What's your assessment of where the Democratic Party is at? What does their future look like? Do they reverse course from this radicalism, or do they just keep it pedal to the metal?
Well, Nancy Pelosi just announced that she's gone. So you have some of the top people that were kind of centrists in the party, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, others. So Schumer is battling right now to not be primaried by AOC. You've got most of the party on the Democrat side, if they don't keep going further and further to the left, meaning more money for illegals, more money for trans agenda, more money for LGBTQ pride stuff to be taught to our children, they are going to lose. So the centrists can no longer hold back the dam of the progressives. So they're going to end up losing to the far left. This is one reason I believe that they're keeping the government shut, is you got Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer that are more afraid of their own political party leadership than their voters, and so they're keeping this closed. Now, as far as Mamdani, I do believe that he is going to win. Polly Markets is absolutely predicting that, so I'm not going to bet against that. Is that what New York City really wants? Well, I guess if he ends up getting the majority, then that's what they get, and they're going to have to live with the consequences of whatever he does. As for me, I would never want someone who is a self-proclaimed socialist, anti-Semite person running my neck of the woods. So I worry for New York City. I think they're going to lose a lot of wealthier taxpayers. I think you're going to see businesses moving out, just like they moved out during COVID under Gavin Newsom. So we'll see what ends up happening in New York, but I do believe he is going to win.
Yeah, I'm afraid you're correct. And a lot of those wealthier taxpayers are actually coming down here to Florida, which I don't know what to think about that. We've got a lot of popular shirts and bumper stickers now that says, "Don't New York my Florida." So we'll see how that goes.
We had the same thing during COVID. Our housing prices jumped by 60 to 70% because you had all of this money flooding in from California. And then we had bumper stickers that said, "Don't California my Utah."
Right. Great minds think alike. So
Yep.
Kudos to Utah. You guys have a lot going for you. I do want to get to some of what's happening in Utah, because I know you actually went to the place where Charlie Kirk was shot. You are following this pretty carefully. What do you make of what's been happening there? What's going on with the trial? Of course, they're trying to keep the cameras out and do it all in secret. What do you make of what's happening in Utah right now with this obviously very sensitive trial?
Yeah, so I've been to the murder scene twice. I believe I've done some of the very best coverage. Now, anyone that wants to immediately blame this on Israel or say that the FBI is covering this up, you're not going to like what I have to say over there. I believe that they've run not a perfect, but a very good investigation. And the state of Utah has actually been leading the charge more than the FBI itself. And so I believe they have a very good case that they are going to be bringing. Now, as far as the changes that have happened, I absolutely want cameras to be in there. As Erica Kirk said, there were cameras on my husband when he was killed. Why can't there be cameras on the person they believe shot him? So I believe that we deserve transparency. I believe that we deserve to see the good, the bad, and the ugly of what both sides present. You're going to have those trying to get the death penalty or at least life in jail against Tyler Robinson, pushing very, very hard. You're also going to have his defense team pushing extremely hard, bringing in their experts to try to say he wasn't there, or he didn't pull the trigger, or he was part of a group but didn't act alone. You're going to see all kinds of crazy information come out. But as of right now, they're saying, okay, when he does come to court, if there are going to be cameras, he deserves, like O.J. Simpson, like others who have had major in the public, he deserves to be in regular civilian clothing when he's on camera versus a jumpsuit or a suicide vest. I've got mixed feelings about that, but at the end of the day, I believe they have a very strong case with a lot of evidence against this guy.
Excellent. And Stephen, on another issue, one of Charlie Kirk's friends, Tucker Carlson, is basically blowing up the media universe today. There seems to be something of a circular firing squad going on among conservatives, those lining up with Tucker, those lining up against Tucker. You've got the Heritage Foundation thrown into the mix. What's your assessment of this? What does it mean for conservatism? What does it mean for the alternative media landscape? If you watched the interview with Fuentes, did you have any thoughts about it?
I was able to watch a majority of it. I haven't been able to finish, just like I'm 2/3 of the way through Elon Musk and Joe Rogan, but it's a 3.5 hour interview. Tucker Carlson was around 2 hours. I don't know anything about Nick Fuentes. People seem to be allowing him to come on and speak his mind, which I guess is an American value. But there is this division over the Israel situation, over Charlie Kirk, over Charlie Kirk's Israel position. So it's been interesting and disappointing for me at the same time to watch. But as far as Tucker Carlson goes, I feel like he's a very good journalist. He definitely has a chip on his shoulder about being lied to get into war in the Middle East. So then I think that colors his perspective on the Israel-Gaza situation. It colors his perspective on, is Trump doing enough for America first, or by helping foreign countries, is he putting America last? So I think in the end, a lot of these things will work themselves out. But I've been very shocked at how much Charlie Kirk's death has kind of put a split in the GOP, and you're seeing people take sides where, Charlie Kirk was very good at bringing people together. Will the GOP survive this? I don't know. Only time will tell.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very interesting. I have a feeling Charlie would have been deeply disappointed to see these divisions that have emerged. We just interviewed Congressman Randy Fine last week, showed some of those clips on this program today. And over the weekend, he was at the Republican Jewish Coalition saying Tucker Carlson is, I guess, the biggest threat to Jews. So we're seeing this incredible division now in the Republican Party. And yeah, we'll have to see where this goes. Stephen, I want to ask you just on kind of a broader, big picture level, where is our country headed? Are you encouraged by what you're seeing? I love your program. You had a very interesting individual on just recently, Greg Bernstein, from former intelligence operative, did a lot of work exposing the Venezuelan involvement in voter fraud. Do you think that is playing a big role in what's happening in our country? And where do you think we're going as a nation? Are you optimistic about where we head from here?
Okay, so I had Patrick Byrne, the former CEO of Overstock, on. He was the one that was pushing or briefing President Trump that the 2020 election had been stolen. He was one of the only people not sued, and the January 6th committee did not go after him. I find that very interesting, right? But he paid over $80 million over the course of multiple years to work with former CIA analysts and auditors, with people that have had New York Times best-selling books like Ralph Paluzzo. But yeah, Gary Bernstein, Patrick Burns, Ralph Paluzzo, and others, they have all come forward saying, listen, there is more going on in Venezuela than what the Trump administration is telling us. All of a sudden, we've got the largest aircraft carrier in our fleet in the Caribbean. We've got over 5,000 men and women in uniform ready to go at the drop of a hat. It was leaked that President Trump has given permission for the CIA to infiltrate Venezuela. And now you've got the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, saying, hey, we haven't been rigging elections, and we're willing to give up to $1 trillion in assets to the United States. We'll drop our relationship with China in order to align with the United States. We'll drop our relationship with Iran. We'll distance ourselves from Russia. So there is something big going on. There's a $50 million bounty on the head of Nicolas Maduro. You've got many in the GOP and a few in the Democrat Party saying they wouldn't be shocked if he's taken out or if he suddenly flees to Russia. So there's a lot going on. I don't think that this is just over, can we get cheaper oil? Because we've got more oil than Saudi Arabia, and President Trump is the most willing president to pump it out of the ground. So I believe that there's a lot going on with human trafficking, drug trafficking, cartel control over Mexico and Venezuela, the oil fields, and yes, rigging elections with taxpayer money. I think it's all going to be coming out very soon.
Yeah, I hope so. I was just with Patrick Byrne and General Flynn a few days ago, and we talked about this very issue, and they know a lot. I shared my thoughts in a very extended interview with Greg Hunter that just dropped over the weekend, folks. So if you want to see a little bit about what's happening in Venezuela and Latin America, go check that out. And also check out Stephen's interview with Greg Bernstein. It was really, really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it, Stephen. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for putting that out there. We're down to just a couple minutes left. I do want to encourage people to go watch your show. You really have some great content. What's the best way for people to do that? I know you've got over 2 million subscribers on YouTube, but I know you're also on Rumble and other places. What's the easiest way for people to watch your shows, listen to your shows, and follow your work?
If they just search Stephen Gardner, they're going to see this face. So that's that's the easiest way to find me. But yeah, I love helping people understand the truth. I try to be as close to neutral as I can. Of course, I'm a little bit biased being a conservative Christian. But yeah, we've got some of the best guests around the country and internationally that I'm just blessed that they say yes to come on the show. But I just love helping people understand what's really going on in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and you do a great job, Stephen. I told you, I'll tell our viewers now, our listeners. I went on your show a couple months ago, and one of my neighbors came up to me. I didn't even realize she was political. She says, "I saw you on Stephen Gardner's show." I said, "That's really cool." Small world. Stephen, thank you for what you do. Thank you for joining us today. It's been a real joy. It's an honor to have you on the program, and I hope we can talk to you again soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, folks, go check it out. The Stephen Gardner Show. Really, really great information. He's talking to some of the greatest, most insightful voices out there on a consistent basis. If you want to know what's happening in this country, turn off the TV, turn off the fake media, go turn on the Stephen Gardner Show. And, of course, stay tuned here to the Sentinel Report. Go sign up for our newsletter at libertysentinel.org. And stay with us. We're going to be right back after this quick break.
Your children are your legacy. Treat them as such. When you homeschool with Classical Conversations, they connect you with a local community of like-minded families who not only learn together, but do life together. They equip homeschool parents just like you, or grandparents, with the confidence to raise bright, observant students who have a lifelong love of learning. Please visit classicalconversations.com/LSM to learn more.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Sentinel Report. Alex Newman, your host here. Thanks for staying with us. Folks, last week we reported about an FDA approval of a generic version of what people call the abortion pill. Essentially, pregnant women can take it, and it will end up killing the unborn baby and essentially result in an abortion. They call them chemical abortions. Joining us to discuss what I consider to be a very, very serious tragedy is Melanie Israel. She is she's a visiting fellow in the Richard and Helen DeVos Center for Life, Religion, and Family at Heritage Foundation. She focuses there on policy involving life and conscious rights and religious freedom. She's been published all over USA Today, Sacramento Bee, Orlando Sentinel, Des Moines Register, and many other places with really, really important information on these critical issues that we all need to understand. Melanie, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate you coming on. What do you say about this FDA approval? I mean, we thought Robert F. Kennedy was going to try to do things a little bit differently. What do we know about this so far?
Yeah. So it's really unfortunate. This is the second generic version of that abortion pill that we know has caused thousands of women serious harm. Obviously, the millions of unborn children that it's cost in the 25 years that abortion pills have existed here in the United States. We certainly think that approving another generic version is premature because HHS has promised that they are doing a full-scale safety review looking at the abortion pill, especially in light of the fact that there was a lot of data under the Biden administration that was ignored to justify weakening a lot of these important safety protocols for these dangerous drugs. Many women are going to be ending up in the hospital emergency rooms with complications and just so many devastating effects to women and girls and obviously unborn children. So in light of that safety review that's been promised, they shouldn't have approved that generic version right now.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that seems like a no-brainer. What could they do different? I mean, they could have rejected this, I suppose, but we know now, and you and I were talking just before we came back from the break, they are now, I guess, doing a review. What does this review entail? What does that look like? And are you hopeful that they're going to do the right thing here?
Yes, we certainly hope so. And the critically important piece to all of this is that if you're going to do a review, it has to be done the right way. This cannot be simply an exercise where you ask the very bureaucrats who caused this problem in the first place to simply go back and check their work and say if they did a good job or not. That is not a true review. What we would really want to see is for the FDA to look at not just its own very limited data, because there's no longer even reporting requirements for serious adverse events for these drugs. The reporting system is entirely voluntary. What they would need to do is go back and look through things like medical claims data, see what's going on in emergency room departments, and look at what the real world impact is. And also zero in on these horrific cases of diversion, where people who shouldn't have these pills are getting a hold of them. Look into these cases of coercion and abuse that would not be possible had the FDA stuck to the original safety protocols. What the Biden administration did is they said, you can send these pills through the mail, you can order them through an online pharmacy where there's no interaction whatsoever in person between a woman and a doctor. At this point, it can be any kind of, PA, pharmacist, whoever. And under President Obama, they did away with in-person dispensing, where you don't have to take that drug under the supervision of any kind of medical provider. There's been all these different steps over the years where they've repeatedly removed these safety requirements, including the reporting requirements about serious adverse events, and then turned around and pointed to the lack of reports to be an excuse to remove even more of those safety protocols. So we know that the FDA's data itself is corrupted, can't be trusted. They need to be looking at additional real-world data and make sure the process is very clear, shine some sunlight on it. We have no idea who even approved the abortion drug in the first place because they broke precedent by redacting all of that information. And so in this full-scale review, that can't happen. There needs to be full transparency, and we need to know about any kind of conflicts of interest so that it can be avoided.
Yeah, amen. And, we talk about safety data. And, we're talking here, of course, about the women who take the pills. But I just want to reiterate here, this drug is almost 100% effective in killing the unborn baby, in destroying a human life. And so it may be, quote unquote, safe for the mother, sort of, all these side effects, of course. But it's certainly not safe for the unborn child who, of course, will die as a result of this. And I mean, it seems like some jurisdictions, Melanie, have recognized this. I know in Texas, they're actually prosecuting a guy for feeding these pills to a girl that he made pregnant. They're prosecuting him, I think, for capital murder. I mean, they're even seeking death penalty charges. Why is it that if the guy gives this to the girl, then it's murder, but it's fine for people to just take it willy-nilly? It's fine for people to send it through the mail. There seems to be kind of a mismatch there in how laws are treating this, huh?
It's been kind of an age-old question. We also have things like fetal homicide laws where a person who kills a pregnant mother can be charged with 2 crimes, not 1. We recognize the humanity of unborn children in some contexts, but not all. And that's something that has been the case, very sadly, in our legal system for a long time. What is encouraging is that we are starting to see more states take action against the men, the unsupportive partners, the abusers, the unsupportive parents, the angry ex-girlfriends, all of these different people who have one way or another gotten their hands on these abortion pills and forced or coerced a pregnant woman to take them against her will. And of course, the facts of each case are a little bit different, the proof that they have and things like that, what state it actually happened in, all of those things can vary. And so it depends on exactly what it is that they're being charged with. But ultimately, we're seeing more of these cases happening because the FDA weakened those safety protocols. Quite frankly, many of the cases that we're tracking here at the Heritage Foundation would not be possible if the FDA hadn't decided to elevate abortion access at the expense of women's health and safety.
Yeah. And you kind of alluded to this, but I just want to clarify. These pills are being used to circumvent state law in cases where abortion has been banned. And so these people are just ordering it through the mail, and there's also a federal statute. Maybe you could clarify here. I think it was the Comstock Act, where you're not supposed to be sending these things through the U.S. mail service, but they're doing it anyway. It seems like we've got several really important legal issues here that need to be at least clarified and in my opinion, hopefully enforced.
Exactly. So one of the things that we're seeing, of course, is that many states, after the Dobbs decision, enacted very strong pro-life laws. And to be clear, they are having a life-saving effect. We're seeing more babies being born in places like Texas, Florida, where they've been enacting these strong pro-life laws. But at the same time, we also know that these, online abortion pharmacies in California and wherever are still shipping pills into these pro-life states. And so the effect of those strong pro-life laws is not as strong as it could be if it wasn't for these dangerous abortion pills. And so to that end, there's several different things going on in the legal side of things. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot of these court cases playing out. First of all, you have pro-abortion states passing what they call shield laws, where they say they are simply not going to cooperate with a pro-life state. For example, a girl in Louisiana was forced to take abortion pills against her will by her mother, who had ordered those pills from a doctor in New York. New York is not cooperating with that investigation. They are perfectly fine, apparently, with a New York abortion doctor sending pills to someone who then forces another person to have an abortion she doesn't want. So that's something that's going to have to be resolved. That's not the only case. That's just one example. On the issue of these drugs being sent through the mail, unfortunately, I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen there. The Comstock law is something that's been on the books for a very long time, but not enforced. And we had the Biden Justice Department come out and issue a memo basically saying that the federal law doesn't mean what it actually says. And so I think here, the very first step for the Trump administration would be to do away with that bad memo right now that a lot of people are pointing to. And so it's going to be a process that we're going to be seeing play out. I think what people need to know most immediately is that if a woman does take an abortion pill, there's a very limited amount of time where if she changes her mind, if she can get help in time, it may be possible to get access to a drug called progesterone, which is very commonly used during pregnancy, has been used for many years, that can possibly counteract the effect of that abortion pill. There have been thousands of babies born as a result of a woman changing her mind and being able to have access to that abortion pill reversal. So there is hope out there as all of these other, legal challenges play out, and we'll see what happens. But I do want your audience to know that there is that bright spot, that piece of hope, and pregnancy centers are really leading the way and making sure women have access to that.
Well, praise the Lord. Melanie, we're almost out of time. Just real quick, what's the ideal solution here if you have one, and how do people follow your work?
Sure. So I think the most immediate step, of course, is that FDA review, looking at the full scope of the safety of mifepristone, be done the right way. We want to make sure that the administration is on firm ground when they reevaluate not just the safety of this drug, but whether or not it should even be approved in the first place. And so dot all of your I's, cross all of your T's. It can't just be some sort of check the box kind of exercise. So we want to see it done the right way. We're going to continue writing about this and following it. I write at the Daily Signal, lots of commentary there, other research at heritage.org, and we're going to keep everybody informed of what's happening, because this really is a life and death situation. Roughly 2/3 of abortions are done with these abortion pills. And unless we do something to address it, I think a lot of the gains that we've seen post Dobbs are not going to be as big as they, otherwise could be.
Yeah. Very grateful for your work on this, Melanie. Thank you for sounding the alarm. Thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Thanks again, Melanie Israel. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, folks, stay with us. We're going to be right back after this quick break. And that's all we have for you today, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. Go to libertysentinel.org, sign up for the newsletter, absolutely free, libertysentinel.org, and join us again next week here on the Sentinel Report. Thank you, and God bless you all.